Folks, I'd like to introduce you to Bob McKelvie. Bob is Mr. Model T here in this part of the country, and he's going to tell us about some of his cars that he has here in Bennington. Bob?
Yeah, Gordon. This car is a 1910 Ford touring car. This car was sold new in Omaha at the Ford branch in downtown Harney, Omaha, on Harney Street. Uh, the car is, well, was shipped to Omaha. There's by the UP Railroad in those years to the dealership, not dealership, but the Ford branch. As far as I know, there wasn't a dealer in Omaha in 1910. This car has a wood body made by a company called Pontiac, and wood wheels, of course, and they're made by a company called Pruden. A lot of the parts on this car are made by Dodge Brothers. This is pretty early in Ford's life. I've had this car myself for 30 years. And the ball horn is a large brass ball horn. The headlights are Edmunds and Jones and they're carbide. They're operated by this tank here. You put in carbide pellets and water, and they mix to form a gas which travels through this hose up to the lights, and then you light them with a match, kind of like you would your barbecue grill. You want to do it pretty quick as the gas is going. The side lights are Edmunds and Jones, and they're kerosene as well as the tail light. These are to operate the car. This is the spark, advance, and retard. Fully up is retarded, down advances it. So to start the car, you want it retarded so it won't kick back, and give it some gas or throttle over here. Be sure it's in neutral with hand lever. Go around to the front of the car, remove the crank from the holder, and away you go. With it, 14 has a choke pull rod out here. This carbide on a 10 has a piece inside that you push down to sink the float to get more gas in the carburetor. And then, like the other cars, you just pull up and it should respond. Anything else we didn't? Oh, the inside of the car is leather, and it's stuffed with horsehair. With the original horsehair, incidentally, was saved and put back in here when they were recovered. It's diamond tufted, and it's not sewn, it's folded wet. It's quite a job to do that. You gotta really know what you're doing to do it. Basically, Gordon. Okay, Gordon, I think this gives you a better angle of the controls that we talked about earlier. As you can see, this is on this top here on the left side is the spark, advance, and retard, and over here being the throttle. This is the coil box. Switch starts magneto. Once it's running, battery. Once it's running, go back to the magneto. Here's where it helps if you can tap dance, because most of the driving with this car is done with your feet. The three pedals being the outside right one is the brake, the middle one is reverse, and the outside left one is the two speeds, low and high. The car needs to be in neutral to start it. Straight up and down is being neutral without having the parking brake set. Once the car is running, you need to hold it in neutral with your left foot and bring this lever forward and then push down for low gear and let it all the way out for high gear. You just use low gear basically to get the car, maybe 50 feet or so, just moving, and then get into high gear. Give it a little more gas and away you go. Gordon, a lot of people come into the building and look at the cars, and of course they want to see the engine. When you open the hood on a car, you really can't see it as well as this display engine here. This is a 1918 Model T engine. You can't see the pedals very well, but you've seen them on the other cars, which are the same. This is the exhaust manifold. It carries out the pipe to the muffler, the carburetor, the hot pipe for the carburetor, the intake manifold, and where this right here is the choke where the rod would run out to the front pull, and basically that's the transmission's back here. It's all connected together. This engine does turn over, but it doesn't run. And you can see what the crank does when you're able to start it. This is the oil filler cap, the fan belt, the adjustment for the tightness on the fan belt. And down here is the timer, the distributor, and of course the spark plugs on the starter head. Basically, that's the best way to look at a motor, because it's virtually impossible to see one inside the car, so everything's so close together. Yeah, Gordon, we have here a 1914 Ford Runabout. Runabout being that it's a one-seated car, where the touring cars have a front and back seat. This one only has a front seat. The difference between this and the 10, as you can see, is a lot more steel on the lights instead of all brass. It's about half and half, but there's still, the headlights are still carbide, and the side lights and tail light are kerosene. Still has the narrow wheels for tires in front, the 30x3s and 30x3.5 in the rear. This car is number 423,000. So you can see how many cars were made between 10 and 14, where the 10 was a 26,000 car. Anything else that we need to? This is a good example of what happened in 7 years after the 1914. This is a 21 Runabout. I've owned this car for 60 years. It was sold new in Joplin, Missouri. And it's just a sweet little car. It's got, of course, it's got a starter. You don't have to crank it. And it's a great driver. There were so many people in the 20s that made different things for cars. That promoted so many jobs, aftermarket accessories and things. Like this steering wheel, it's an anti-theft. By turning this key, it freewheels and no one can take your car away from the curb. And it's got the same system with the Spark Advance on the left side in the throttle. The lights are now all black and everything is all steel. The fenders are crowned, and the radiator is raised up to help manage some of the heat, and it still has heat problems. The hood is vented, just several different things. The wheels are now demountable. It's just quite an improvement, and these cars were like this from 1917 to 22. It's almost impossible to tell the difference in them. And then the 23, 4s, and 5s were identical. And then the 26 and 27 were just some minor differences. And then, of course, he went into making the Model A. It was 15 million cars from 1909 to 27. I think in 1 year in the 20s, not this year, but in the 23 or 4, somewhere in there, he sold 2 million cars in 1 year. So it's quite an accomplishment. He definitely put the country on wheels. There's no question about that. It's hard for me to see why anybody who had a car collection, no matter how old they are, or good they are, could have any kind of a car collection without having a Model T. It's just such an important part of, I think, of our history, and it's history that you can play with. So.
Bob, Ford was known for economizing, and I noticed that in this and your other cars, there's not a driver's door. Can you tell us some of the ways he saved money?
Yeah, that was one way, I think. I've been told that the radiator had 5 rows of tubes. I don't know how many, 3 rows of so many tubes across. I don't remember the exact number, but And the cars that went north, he eliminated some of those tubes to save money. But when you're talking about millions of cars being made, a dime here and a dime there is an awful lot of money. It comes out to, you know. So there were several things that just comes to my mind now. The radiator and every nut and bolt on these cars from 9 to 27 has got a cotter pin through the nut. And almost from the beginning, a lot of the parts were marked Dodge Brothers, DB, and almost everything on this car, no matter how minute it is stamped Ford. He had suppliers who supplied him with parts. He specified the size the box would be made, and he used the box for floorboards. Ford was very thrifty, and you know, he made money, and he just didn't waste money.
Bob, thank you very much for showing us your cars.
It was fun. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Riley.
Riley missed out on the whole thing.